I suppose it's realistic to say that it's unlikely to work as an equipment repair technician for very long without receiving some type of injury. Maybe it's a cut or bruised finger, or some strained muscles in your back or arm, or an eye injury of some type. In this business, it's important to get the job done properly, on time, and within the customer's cost estimate. It's easy to say that there isn't enough time to avoid every minor accident. And I suppose something like this could be considered a minor accident, as long as there was nobody on the creeper. And this type of accident only proves that someone was careless by leaving that hose laying around. The operator should have checked the area before he backed up. But there were no personal injuries, and it'll add a little humor to the lunch hour. It will also add a little to the owner's cost of doing business. But what if that creeper or hose had been a person? I'll bet the conversation at lunch wouldn't have been at all humorous. It's easy to find excuses for not doing the little things that can help avoid injuries when things are busy and you're in a rush. But if you really want to know what job pressure is, consider what a top race support team goes through during competition. Yet safety is one of the most important things they plan for and think about. An unsafe move in this job gives new meaning to the term roadkill. Chad Little is a driver for the John Deere Motorsports team in the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series of races.
The people on our team have safety drummed into their heads by team management every day. Even under constant pressure, we refuse to make room for carelessness that will create personal injuries. Every member of our team is healthy. No little cuts or scrapes, and definitely no broken bones. On race day, injured crew members don't make the cut. Good safety practices are one of the things that separates the winners from the also-ran class.
The interesting thing about being around a winning team is how disciplined they are and how much emphasis management puts on safety. Insistence on safe practices starts at the top. Supervisors are responsible for setting and enforcing the safety example. That doesn't mean you, as a repair technician, don't have a personal responsibility. It means everybody shares in the penalties and rewards of job safety. Being safe means avoiding the little injuries. Slips, falls, and toe injuries can be prevented by using safe climbing equipment and wearing hard-toed safety shoes with non-slip soles. Eye injury or loss can be avoided with good safety glasses. It takes less than 5 seconds to put on a pair of safety glasses, and it takes less than 1 second to damage your sight, and a lifetime to get over it. There's the occasional hand injury that requires more than a simple Band-Aid to keep it covered while it heals. Injuries like this make it hard to meet a manufacturer's flat rate, let alone beat it, and it will sure leave you sitting on the sidelines on race day. And how often have you not made the effort to properly pick up a heavy object? Heavy, where your back is concerned, begins at anything over 40 pounds. That doesn't mean less than 40 pounds won't hurt you. It means 40 pounds is the start of a more serious danger zone. Back injuries are practically a proverb in this business. Sadly enough, a back injury is yours for life. We just mentioned the 3 types of injuries that account for over 65% of all personal injuries in equipment repair situations. Eye injuries, hand injuries, and back injuries. Those are the 3 most common types of accidents occurring in repair shops. Of course, there are other types of injuries. Skinned shins, chipped bones, broken arms, legs, cracked ribs, puncture wounds, and burns. But while many of them are serious, they aren't the major percentage of total injuries in repair work. In this program, we'll concentrate on the 3 biggest culprits: eye injuries, hand injuries, and back injuries. You wouldn't even think of arc welding without wearing a full face shield. And you probably wouldn't use a cutting torch without wearing the required personal protective equipment. So you have to ask yourself why anyone would risk injuring an eye doing something like this. Remember what we said about how much time it takes to put on eye and face protection? The price of not doing it is a lifetime of regret. Make sure the safety glasses you wear are suitable for the job you're doing. Sparks and flying chips can shoot through the gap between your glasses and nose or cheekbone. A full face shield will protect you from metal and dirt chips. Full face shields can also prevent serious burns when working around pressurized systems, like radiators and systems with dangerous chemicals, like batteries. It's the business owner who buys the safety equipment, but it's up to you to use it 100% of the time. When management insists that everyone wears the correct personal protective equipment, it pays off, big time. For one thing, insurance rates are based on how well the shop is run, the type of safety program enforced, and the number of claims against the policyholder. And personal injury accidents cause the business to lose the services of a valuable, skilled employee, and all the training they've invested in that person. There's been more than one place that met this fate because they couldn't control their costs. And insurance is a big part of the cost of doing business. That's why management needs to rigidly enforce all safety rules. That means everyone wears the eye protection the employer is required by OSHA to provide. And by the way, an OSHA citation can be another reason for going out of business and leaving you unemployed. It could add enough to the cost of doing business to make your employer uncompetitive in a very competitive and cost-sensitive business. Manufacturing operations have a lower incidence of eye injuries than equipment repair operations, and the reason is very simple. If the machine operator is caught not wearing the employer-supplied eye protection, they're subject to disciplinary action. It doesn't matter if they're union or non-union, the rules are the same. As a matter of fact, the unions support employer safety regulations on behalf of their members. But it's more than that. The most qualified person to look out for your best interest is you. Take care of your eyes. The risk of damaging your eyesight is too great to take a chance. You've got one pair of eyes, and they've got to last you a lifetime. You can't go out and buy replacements. Putting on safety glasses may seem like a real pain in the anatomy sometimes, until you consider the results of not wearing them. You know, in this business, there's all kinds of ways to get your hands damaged. Careless use of a pry bar is just one of the ways. If that block of wood slips or the bar twists on whatever the person is prying, the hand damage could be serious. And sometimes you have to use a knife to cut through a hose. Just remember, it takes less time to put on a pair of protective gloves than it does to go to the doctor to have your hand stitched up. Hot manifolds or hydraulic components can cook your skin. If you have to work near a hot surface, at least put some type of heat shield, and we don't mean an oily rag, between you and the hot surface. Gauntlet-type gloves or leather arm protectors are easier to replace than skin. Wearing jewelry is an invitation to disaster. If metal jewelry touches a live wire and shorts out, the scars will be a lifetime reminder. If that ring you're wearing gets caught on something, you might partly or completely remove your finger. And shorting your watch band across the battery circuit will blow a hole in both your watch and your wrist at the same time. Take off any jewelry before it takes off a piece of you. Most everybody knows that you never check for a leak in a high-pressure line with your bare hand. High-pressure fluids can be directly injected through your skin. That's an easy way to get blood poisoning, which can lead to the loss of a finger or hand. If the fluid is hot, you can also get a serious burn. If you're injected with or burned by fluids, get emergency treatment right away. That means seeing a doctor who's familiar with the proper treatment for this type of injury. Also, don't clean parts in solvent without protecting yourself. It only takes a small cut for the solvent to get into your bloodstream and cause big-time problems. Being in a hurry is no excuse for not being cautious. Cautious is pulling the key out of the ignition and putting a do not operate tag in the cab every time you work on a machine. If somebody hits the starter while your hand is near that fan blade, gloves or not, you'll have a bloody mess. Watch out for any sharp edges on that fan shrouding too. Anybody who tries something like this is looking for a broken hand or arm. That shaft can easily grab your sleeve or glove. Shortcuts cause injuries. It'll take you a grand total of 5 extra minutes to grease the machine. Then warm up the engine. Who among us has not done something like this and had the tool slip? Unfortunately, we don't always learn from our injuries or near misses. Taking shortcuts can lead to injuries that cost a lot more time than you saved by not doing it right in the first place. If you think about it, a big part of this job involves loosening and tightening things. Use the proper tool, one that fully engages the fastener and allows you to apply pressure in the proper line of force. Crescent wrenches can easily slip, and it's best not to use them. For tight spots, use an offset wrench instead of applying force to an open-end wrench that's on an angle. If the tool slips, make sure you know where the line of force is so that you can avoid injury. Make sure your tools are in good condition. A cracked socket, a worn set of wrenches, damaged or badly worn screwdriver tips, mushroom chisels and hammer heads, and loose handles can all be the cause of an eye or hand injury. Sure, tools are expensive, but did you ever price a new finger or hand? Losing all or part of your fingers will take away forever that marvelous sense of touch that we all seem to take for granted. Your hands are your business. If you're working on a job and need a special tool or device to do it safely, go get it. If your shop doesn't have the right tools, have the boss order them. Don't do dangerous things like substituting logs for jack stands. Don't use a homemade device to do a professional job. Homemade rigs fail without warning. Unfortunately, it often takes a serious injury to force us to change. That's sad, because we have the ability to think about these things before they happen. The human hand is one of the most complicated parts of the human body. It's a really marvelous device that no amount of engineering has ever been able to duplicate. Taking chances that can be avoided, doesn't make any sense. Hands are a one-time gift. Think about that next time you put them in harm's way. Modern machines are made up of an incredible number of components. And whether you want to believe it or not, engineers are always trying to place frequently serviced components where they are both convenient to get at and protected from damage. That's a tall order. If you've been in this business for any length of time, you've seen some great improvements made in this area, but fitting yourself into awkward positions is still part of this job. And the victim of all this twisting and bending is your back. Staying in one position with your back bent for a long period of time puts a lot of strain on those muscles. If you're doing a job that requires this type of bending, give your back a break every few minutes. Straighten up and move around a little. Anything to give those muscles a little rest. Another part of this job is climbing on and off the machine. Always use a three-point contact. It may be quicker to jump off the equipment than it is to back down using a constant three-point contact. But if you twist an ankle or hurt your back, you won't be saving any time. Of course, there's hundreds of ways to injure your back. We often think of back injuries as being caused by trying to pick up too much weight the wrong way. When it comes to picking things up, the first choice should be to lift with your legs and not with your back. Don't try to pick up more than you realistically should. A realistic weight to pick up by yourself is anything under 40 pounds, unless the object is bulky or has an awkward shape. If there's any question, get help. Getting help takes minutes. Getting over a serious back injury takes a couple of lifetimes. A proven method to help reduce lower back stress is to pick up an object with only one hand whenever possible. Place your free hand on some solid object or on your leg above your knee. Then, as you start to raise up, push off with your arm. That will transfer a lot of the stress from your lower back, where most back injuries occur, to your arm and upper back where the muscles are stronger and better able to take the stress. We're all familiar with the lectures about how to pick something up by squatting and picking with your legs, instead of bending over and lifting with your back muscles. We also know that's not always practical. In some situations, taking the time to get help or using a mechanical lifting device can save lots of grief later on. Usually, if whatever you're trying to lift won't fit between your knees when you squat down, you're not going to be able to pick it up with your back straight. Now's the time to get help or use a mechanical lifting device. The only people who will think you're a wimp if you ask for help are the ones who've never lost a night's sleep because of the pain in their back. Another thing to remember is always keep whatever you're picking up as close to your body as possible. Picking or carrying a load away from your body transfers a lot of strain to your lower back muscles. Avoid this by keeping the load close in to your body. And don't lift and twist in the same motion. Pick the object straight up, then turn and carry the load. Of course, not all back injuries come from picking up heavy objects the wrong way. Avoid the temptation to slide things along the floor with your foot, especially sideways. This puts a lot of stress on your back. Lots of serious back injuries occur because of slips and falls. Take your time on uneven ground, slippery conditions, or whenever you're carrying something. The complexities of the human back make it an engineering marvel. A back injury can affect even the simplest things we take for granted, like getting in or out of the truck without pain. We don't have to tell you that many back injuries last a lifetime, and having to struggle to get out of a chair or popping aspirin to get through the day or get a night's rest is probably not what you had in mind as the way you want to spend your vacation or retirement. Chronic back pain can keep you from doing a lot of fun stuff at any age. There are a few things we'd like to point out that apply to general safety around the shop. Here's an important one. Never stand or put any part of your body in the path of a potential failure. If an object is under pressure or force and something fails, the object is going to spring loose and it's probably not going to be under control. Here's a simple look at a true story of how a man was killed while attempting to stretch a belt onto a conveyor. The chain holding the pulley snapped, and the cable swept across the belt and decapitated the man. If he had been standing here, out of the path of the cable, he might still be alive today. So think about this before you apply pressure to anything. If something fails, where is the force going to be directed? Don't stand in the path of a cable or chain that's under tension or pressure. Cut in a direction away from your body. Don't stand directly under objects that could fall. When hoisting objects, be sure of your lifting device and the securement device. A positive action safety latch must be used on all hooks. And if you can't fit the hook completely through the lift ring, don't raise the load until you've found a more secure way to rig it. Pay attention to how you park equipment in the shop. Leaving the forks of a lift at shin level can put somebody down in a hurry. Leaving attachments in the air at eye level is also dangerous. It's best to lower them to the ground. If you can't do that, at least flag them off. Keep your work area neat. Loose tools, especially round ones, can take you for a ride. Wet floors can do the same thing. Of course, as we said before, there's plenty of other ways to be injured. And if you talk to anyone who's had a serious injury, they'll usually tell you how it could have and should have been prevented. They'll also tell you that if they had thought about it beforehand, they would probably have done a few things differently. We've just covered the 3 highest risk injury areas: eyes, hands, and backs, and talked about the ways these injuries can be avoided. To close, remember these 3 things that apply to all accident situations. Let's call them the 3 P's: procedure, protection, position. First, ask yourself, am I using the safest procedure for this job? Use the right tools and methods recommended by the manufacturer of the equipment you're working on. Prevent things from moving unexpectedly, and think the job over before you begin. Second, am I using the best protection? Eye, hand, and skin protection is easy to use and can prevent many kinds of injury. Third, if something fails, am I or any bystanders in the best position to avoid injury? If you're working on something that is heavy or under tension or pressure of any kind, stop and think about it. If something failed, where would the force be directed? Would it shoot across the floor or fall straight down? Wherever it would go is the place you don't want to be. Step off to the side or back away. Eye, hand, and back injuries are the most common in your business. Using proper procedures, protection, and position are the best ways to keep safe.